Today we're looking at what I've called matchmaking, and we start with a song. Give me that old time religion, give me that old time religion, give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Okay, let's look at matchmaking back in the day. For some of us that have aged parents, if they relate some of the experiences to you, you realize that it's actually their own parents that made choices for them. And that's because their parents understood them, they understood their makeup, they understood their outlook on life, their temperament. And so basically what they did was they looked around and they picked the person that they felt to be best for their son or best for their daughter. And sometimes the joke is that they were then dispatched to the son or the daughter who had no choice than to accept the choice of the parents. And if you look at it, a lot of the times those marriages actually worked out. It didn't mean that they didn't have issues. They also had issues, but a lot of the times they stayed married forever. Unlike if you look at what is happening now, people want to make those choices by themselves. And then before you know it, they start talking about how they've fallen out of love, or they are no longer compatible, or they talk about deliberate uncoupling. But let's also look at scriptures. Let scriptures be a guide to us. You can see that in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22, is actually true. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. So it's actually the man that does the finding. And he's supposed to find. That is true. But let's also be conscious of the fact that women do have, or wives or spouses have a lot of influence on your outlook on life and almost every aspect of your life. If you look at it, the case of Solomon, who is reputed as the wisest man who ever lived. For it was so when Solomon was old that his wives turned his heart after other gods. And his heart was unloyal to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. So Solomon made choices. He did find wives, but they turned his heart away from God. And that's what we want to avoid. And Proverbs 19, verse 14 provides very good guidance. Houses and riches are inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. And I think this is where we need to be going to. Let God do the leading, particularly when you want to make choice of your spouse. And that's why if you look at some ministries, they do ask for confirmation. They want to find out, how did you know this is the person for you? And the testimonies are very interesting. When I was courting and I had the privilege of listening to some of the testimonies, and of course, even in being part of ministries, very interesting testimonies. In fact, God, you know, comes through. When people are sincere, they want to really find out, is this the person God has, destined for me? You see the testimony. Sometimes they come at their birthdays. Sometimes, they have similar, experience, so that when this person releases the other person, then they know this is, God is the one leading us to become a couple and to get married. And I think it's a good thing, you know, because God knows our frame. He remembers that we are dust. But this can also be, a a factor in terms of choices, because people then begin to go by the flesh. They basically look at how beautiful the person is, if it's a lady, or in the case of ladies, sometimes if they feel the man is not rich enough to be able to take care of me, they don't feel it's God's will. We need to go beyond that. We're people of faith, you know. In any case, not everyone in church fears God. There are people that are just there. They have always been mixed multitudes. Even when the children of Israel left Egypt, they were mixed multitudes with them. So if you are going to go with your flesh, you are going to go with your eyes and the things that you see, you might end up with someone that is actually not even a believer. They are just there, to mark time. They don't even fear God. And it's when you get into it that you then realize that I made a horrible mistake. So in terms of let God do the matchmaking, after all, God provided the wife for Adam. It didn't mean that they didn't have issues, but I'm telling you, those kinds of marriages are way better. They're more likely to succeed than those that you didn't hear God tell you this is your partner, because you can always go back to God and resolve issues.